jump now to, because we only have a few minutes left, we're going to go over a little bit because I definitely have to talk to our reporters who've been out there this week working hard, trying to keep the stories alive about our election, not only the local elections in Prince George's County, DC, and Northern Virginia, but also our national elections. So we'd like to bring them on right now. Sam Collins, Stacey Brown, Hamil Harris. You guys look tired. Kevin McNair, our fearless editor. You guys look like you look like you covered a national election this week.
Yep.
So I'm gonna start with you, Kevin. First of all, I just want to thank our team for, I think, a very appropriate front page. And the question we asked was what's now, or what now, and I think that was appropriate. But then in planning this whole issue, and so let's talk a little bit about the national elections. You and Stacey, I want to jump in on that first.
Well, of course, we know that they're still tallying votes, and it looks like Nevada and Arizona and Georgia's going to a recount because of the differential so small. It's pretty clear that I'm going to say it looks like Biden's going to take it. The disconcerting issue for me, and I think for Stacey as well, has just been the response from our president. You have to always be presidential, whether you're Democrat or Republican. And the election is a fair process. Everyone should have a vote. Everyone has a vote, and people exercise their vote.
And Stacey, I know that you knew going into this, as we all did, that we Kevin keeps freezing on us, so that's okay. You froze on us for a second. I'm going to ask Stacey. There you are. You knew going into this election that we weren't going to have results on election night. So where are we now?
Well, where are we now? So Pennsylvania is now going big for Donald Trump. For Joe Biden. He has taken the lead. They're about just about finished with the count. He last checked up over 20,000 votes. Georgia is so interesting because he's up. Biden is up there by about 2,000 votes, and they only have a few thousand left to count. And like Kevin said, there will be a recount. He's also up in Biden's also up in Arizona. But what makes Georgia so interesting, Denise, is that once again, we see that the Democrats owe Black people so much because the votes came in from predominantly Black Fulton County, which has Atlanta, the major city there that is predominantly Black, and it put Biden over the top there. And the same thing we were seeing in Nevada when Clark County came in. The same thing, even in North Carolina, though Biden trails in North Carolina by about 1.5 percentage points, the fact that North Carolina and Georgia is in play for a Democrat is amazing. And then on top of that, you have 3 crucial Senate races that each appear to be headed to a runoff as the votes continue to come in. And that's important because that changes the balance of power in the Senate. And there is a potential for no more Mitch McConnell's graveyard. Democrats can actually control the Senate if those 3 races in the South, 2 in Georgia and 1 in North Carolina, turns in favor of the Democrats. And one last point, and I know you need to move on. Joe Biden is actually on a pace to receive 80 million votes. Now, we know Donald Trump has been obsessed his whole presidency with Barack Obama. Well, here's one little notch in Donald Trump's belt he can walk away gracefully with, if he ever does walk away gracefully, is that he too will surpass Barack Obama's record set in 2008 for the number of votes. He's going to get probably about 70, 71 million votes. Obama got 69, I believe, 0.8 million votes, and which was a record at that time. But the bottom line here, the Black voters showed up and they showed out.
I want to also add in your reporting there, Stacey, that senator, one of those senatorial seats that's up for grabs in Atlanta, right, in Georgia, may go to an African American. Right. The minister of Ebenezer Church, I think, in Atlanta. Sam, you covered Virginia, Northern Virginia. It was really good that you were able to do that for us. What did you see when you were out there among the voters?
Thank you, Denise. What I saw in Northern Virginia was a war for the consciousness of Virginia. And, as you know, in 2016, the Democrats took Virginia in the presidential election. And that was indicative of a growing population of immigrants and liberal, well-educated people, so to speak. So during this election, you saw more of the conservative wings of voters in Northern Virginia really vying for their spot, really having their say and establishing that Virginia or some parts of it support Donald Trump. So I had the opportunity to travel through Fairfax. I traveled to Des Plaines, Virginia, and other parts of Fauquier County. And what I learned during my trips there was that even though some parts of Virginia are Republican strongholds, you have some voters who are closet Democrats. So there's a culture shift going on, and it's gradual at times, but this election showed that Virginia is on its way to truly being a blue state. Right now, I still consider it a purple state in a sense, and people would call it blue, but I think it has some way to go, and this election showed that.
Interesting. Thank you. And James, I think you spent an evening at the DC Board of Elections, but also with some of the voters in DC. We had a council with 4 members running for the at-large seat. And that boiled down to the incumbent getting back in and a new woman to the DC City Council. What else did you carry away from election night? James?
Right.
Okay. We're having
one of the interesting things, the new council, you have 2 new councilmen from Janice Lewis George.
We're going to get you out and get you back in again, James. Hamil.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean.
Well, I've been, covering religion and faith, and I had the opportunity to talk to some of the top Republican officials as well as local officials. In terms of faith, I want to make it clear that when you look at it, Georgia, again, Raphael Warnock, what's the connection to DC? You had this massive mobilization of online Zoom churches from Alpha Street Baptist Church to Greater Mount Calvary, you name it, where people were able to use Zoom, use the internet to connect. And what did they do? They were told, mail in your ballot, stay home, make the impact. And I talked to Derek Harkin, he used to be at 19th Street Baptist Church, National Director for Faith Outreach. He said that was the critical difference. Because Donald Trump himself said, don't come to the polls, ignoring Corona, ignore medical science. He told his people what to do, and that was a fatal blow politically, as often, unfortunately, medically. So I've been studying that with a group of evangelicals just now on TV, on the Zoom, and they promoting what happened. So again, this was something that Donald Trump did. And looking at that, the last point, I know we got to go. Gwinnett County, Forsyth County, remember Hosea Williams, all those bloody battles, those counties, we had a large number, not just of blacks, but of whites. I think Sam said it best. Those undercover Democrats, they voted. The man's get 80% of the vote. Didn't that many black people there for? So again, you see something happening with this political realignment.
James, are you with us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. So you were saying about the change up in the district.
I'll be very quick. You have Janice Lewis George, who is a very, I'll say it, left-leaning new council member who defeated Brandon Todd, who, by the way, was a strong ally of Mayor Bowser, who you just previously had on your show. And you have Christina Henderson, who will replace her former boss, David Grosso, on the DC Council. Interesting fact about Christina Henderson, her votes came mainly from the white wards of DC, whereas Vincent Orange basically came in second in terms of the black wards in DC.
Interesting. You know, it's going to be interesting to see where this council goes. The mayor talked about the additional number of women now that are on the council. Kevin, I want to jump to you really quick because, I mean, people, other political pundits on other shows are making the clear distinction, which is interesting to me, that Republicans did pretty well across the country. The Republican president did okay himself, even though he didn't get the electoral votes. But they don't seem to be coming out and rallying for him. They seem pretty stable. What do you have to? What do you think, or why do you or Stacey think that may be the case?
Well, I think there's the divisive tone and divisive language and words that the president used and has continued to use. You know, yesterday he was on national television, and the major networks cut away from him because of his comments. You know, and the charges, allegations about the election being fixed and votes being stolen. There's just no place for that kind of conversation without evidence, and there is no evidence. So I think a lot of Republicans, luckily, rode his coattails into the Senate, but many of them are now you know, Mitch McConnell was in the middle and said, "Look, I don't know what to do about this," but he understands that this is going to be a change of the order, and Democrats and Republicans have to work together. We have not seen that. We've got to work together to handle COVID and all the other improprieties and inequities in the United States. And so I think that's what you're seeing right now. Republicans saying, look, enough is enough. Of course, Lindsey Graham and a few others are staying on the side of the president, and they have that right. But we are being objective and looking at it and saying, okay, it's time to move on, if indeed it is. And it looks like it's clear it is time to move on. I would say two things. One, congratulations to Gladys Witherspoon, who was a district attorney and won in Prince George's County Circuit 7, which is very difficult to do as a DA because there's a system involved when you're you know, endorsed. And she was not endorsed, but she came in first among judges. And then in Manassas, Virginia, Michelle Davis Younger, the first black woman, the first black, and the first Democrat to become mayor of the city of Manassas. Another significant first among voters. And her vote should not come from African Americans, it's Latinos, smaller percentage of black in Manassas. But she used a combination of Latinos and African Americans with white votes collectively to take that seat. So congratulations to her as well.
And Stacey, you spent the night, election night, interviewing publishers and journalists from all across the country. We have 42 guests over a matter of about 4 hours. What was your sense of where they felt? I know that, you know, you had Clovis Campbell from Phoenix, Arizona, places where, you know, the votes were very much in play. But what did you get out of that night from those conversations?
Well, it certainly was a great night. Actually, it was 5 hours plus. But, you know, Denise, I think the bottom line, and I've spoken to many of them since Tuesday night, and the overwhelming thing is very sobering. These are not the United States anymore. These are the divided states, clearly the divided states. And I say that because when 2016, people wrote that off as, well, you know, folks came out of the mountains who had never voted before. Folks came out of the woodworks, you know, these undercover white supremacists to put Trump into office. Well, 4 years later, this year, we've been seeing protest marches, demonstrations in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, and a lot of white folks stood up and marched with black folks, and companies, white companies said, we stand with you too. You had the sports league standing with Black Lives Matter. But the truth of the matter is, for Donald Trump to get 70 million votes shows you that those people who were standing next to Patrisse Cullors and everyone else in the Black Lives Movement and black people in general, that said, I'm standing with you. Well, many of them didn't. They didn't. The election proved that, because this should have been a landslide. Mm-hmm. It should have been a complete landslide. So make no mistake, This is not the United States. This is the divided states. And Black people fought. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a premium responsibility to not forget that, because a lot of people don't want to hear this, Denise, but 8 years, Barack Obama forgot about Black people for the most part. He said he wanted to be the president of the United States, and you understood that. Not the president of Black America, but guess what? It's time for somebody to be the president of Black America.
Sorry about that. I had myself on mute. I'm going to end this, though, with asking each one of you in about 30 seconds or less to answer this question. What now? Sam?
Great, 30 seconds. I had more, but here it goes. But now, I think now is the time, like Stacey Brown said, to really pressure Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to really make sure that they do what Black people put them in there to do. You know, there's no need to be shy or coy about what it is that we want. And that means organizing on every level. And that means being really self-determined and being very absolute about what it is that we deserve.
What now? A moment of moments of prayer and reflection. I think we need to look at where we are and what we've done individually and collectively, and remember, as Stacey said, this is one country. We're going to live or die, sink or swim together, no matter what people may think. And we need to work on that agenda, the agenda for the American people, particularly those who are lost, left out, and underserved.
All right. Hamil Harris.
That's an opposition to a party that's in charge. What will they do? Who will be in the big tent and who will not get a job? And I think that's James Wright likes to see. We want to see who's going in and who's not going to be at the door.
And James Wright.
In January, the DC Council will be majority female, but also majority Black. Will that council be responsive to those constituencies?
All right. And lastly, Stacey Brown, you're last.
Well, I'm going to steal this from Dr. Ebony Hilton in Virginia. She says that it's time for a Secretary of Equity, which would be tasked to eradicate disparities in education, housing, health, and wealth. And really, I can't agree more. This is a start for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to start paying attention to Black America.
Gentlemen, thank you so very much for your time and for your analysis of this election. We have a lot of work on our hands talking about what now. We know we're working now on next week's paper, and I know we've got some great stories coming up. Get a few minutes rest. I know you need it. So I want to thank you, and I also want to thank the folks who have been commenting through our show. You know, so we have some favorites out there, and so I'm giving a shout out to, of course, our very own, who we've missed, Stacey Palmer. Thank you for your accolades, Enid Doggett, Anthony Tillman, who's doing some social media, and I also want to thank, you know, our fearless producer, Chevy Lassiter, and now our sidekick co-producer, Linda Way. Where did she go? Villakazi. She knows I always have a problem saying that, but Linda Way Villakazi. And most of all, I want to thank you all for joining us. We've gone over a little bit more, but I think we had a great show. We want to hear from you. So if you have some ideas about who we need to be talking to and what we need to be talking about here on WIN TV, if you're doing something in the community that you think folks need to know about, email us at win-tv@washingtoninformer.com. Email us at win-tv@washingtoninformer.com.